Hi, my name is Finya. Welcome back to my channel. I recently went through my currently reading list on Goodreads and I noticed that there are a lot of books which I'm currently reading, and I think there are around 15 books, and some of them I didn't even touch for like the last 2 years. I don't know, so I thought I would go through them, DNF some of them, maybe actually finish some of the others, and yeah, let's see what's on that list. So the first thing on my list is Deathnote Volume 8. Deathnote is about a high school student who stumbles upon a notebook lying on the ground, and it says in the instructions of the note, it is called a Death Note, that if you write a name in it and circumstance, that person will die. It turns out that it belongs to a Shimigami who just let it fall into the earth out of pure boredom because he wants to see things happen. So that high school student, whose name is Light, he starts putting names of criminals in them to kind of build this new just world. So in the manga series, it's basically about him trying to build this new world, and a secret detective who's trying to find out how all of those deaths are suddenly happening and who's behind all of this. And it's super fun, it's super complex, and it's really cool to have those two guys ping-ponging off each other. One is ahead, then the other is ahead, and yeah, it's pretty fun. So far there's something happening in volume 7 that I really didn't like. Something that is really changing something about the whole series as a whole, I think. And basically in that moment I was like, okay, I'm not interested anymore. I don't know, just not interested anymore, but it just is not as fun anymore. And so I'm kind of stuck in volume 8 right now, and yeah, I really want to finish it and see how it all plays out. I think there's 13 volumes in total, but yeah, I'm hyped to kind of find out how this all is gonna end, but I'm definitely not as excited anymore. Now, if you know. If you read Death Note, you know exactly what's happening in volume 7, but I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, it was kind of a bummer. The next thing is the Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare and some others. This is basically short stories from Magnus Bane's life. So what I'm trying to do right now is to read all of the Shadowhunter books from Cassandra Clare in the chronological order. So basically also like short stories from this and Tales of the Shadowhunter Market, I think it's called, and other short story collections, and all the books in the exact chronological order, because I've read most of Cassandra Clare's work in the Shadowhunter realm, like the Mortal Instruments and the Dark Artifices. I have to think of the names because I've read them in German years ago. The Infernal Devices, sorry. I think I've read those and a couple more books, but for example, the new series I haven't read, and yeah. So I'm going to do a whole reread of the books I know and the new ones, which I've already bought, and I want to read them in a chronological order. I think those are 49 works, including books and short stories. So yeah. Well, I think I've read the first 2 because these are in chronological order. The first stories to read is the first 3, I think, from the Bane Chronicles, and I've read 2 of them, and they didn't really get me hooked to continue reading the Shadowhunter universe. But yeah, I think I'll postpone that to another time because I have a lot of books that I want to finish first and more books that I want to read before that. So yeah, later on. Next we have Babel by R.F. Kuang, which is lying on my shelf for at least 1 or 2 years, I think. And I only started it because my roommate was like, oh my god, I've bought this new book and I want to read it. And I was like, which book? And he showed me this, and I was like, well, I have a copy as well. So we both started reading it together at the same time. In that session, I got until chapter 3 and basically stopped reading, because at that point I was in the middle of another book and I basically only read this because my roommate got it. So I was like, I don't know, so I didn't really continue reading this, although the first 2 chapters were really good. So I really want to continue reading this year, or like in the next 3 months, I think. Then I've been reading 1984 by George Orwell. I have read this already years ago, I think when I was like 15, 16 years old. I think in the same time I read Brave New World and like other dystopian novels. But I forgot so much about 1984 that I wanted to reread it, and I found it on Kindle that it's for free, so why not? So it was currently my Kindle book, which I'm reading when I'm not at home, but I really want to finish it because it's a really good book and I don't want to keep it to the outside, and I probably would just sit down and finish it at home in the next couple of days because it's so good, and I think it's one of the most important classics there are, but also super easy to read, and I think very intuitive as well, because you kind of have a feel already for what's gonna happen, but it's still exciting when you read it. So yeah, I'm really excited to finish that in the next couple of days. Then we have Now Go on Grief and Studio Ghibli. This is by the author Carl Thomas Smith, but it's by this publisher called 404 Inklings, and those are basically very small, handy books, and very short usually, that are about one topic, and usually, you know, kind of give you information and insight on a certain topic. And I found this because I think Jack Atwood was reading it, and I found it on his Goodreads, and I got really interested and looked through all the different editions of these, and I have a lot of them in my want to read list, and it's just super nice to have like a very short book on an interesting topic to kind of, you know, learn something. And this was kind of a book that I would also take with me when I'm not reading on my Kindle but want to read a physical book on the train or somewhere else. But yeah, I think I would just, you know, continue reading that at home to also, you know, get it out of my system. Sometimes I have those books. If you watched my How to Read More book, then you know that I have usually a couple of books that I have, you know, to read on the train or on my Kindle, and then usually only read it there. But sometimes those books are just laying around so much that I just at some point want to finish them, and this is one of them. I really want to read it. Yeah, I would just also, you know, sit down on the couch and finish that. It's really only a couple pages left, and basically it's about grief and, you know, struggling with grief, and also how Studio Ghibli movies portrays and captures grief in this very comforting way. As we know, I think everyone who've watched a Studio Ghibli movie, there are a lot of times about very heavy, sad topics, but, you know, wrapped in this warm blanket that it's much nicer to deal with that. So yeah, that's a very interesting read, and love to finish it soon. Then we have a non-fiction book, actually, Atomic Habits. Oh, actually another non-fiction book, like Now Go, but Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I started that when I had this burst of motivation to form new habits and maybe stop some nasty habits like smoking and stuff like that. And as you know, the dust on this book shows, I've got far, but then I just didn't continue reading. I don't know why, actually, and it was before I actually started implementing it in my life. So yeah, I should finish it soon, but I'm kind of in my fiction era right now, so I don't know, I'm not super motivated to, you know, read this right now, because, you know, non-fiction, and especially those self-help books, they usually mean work. You know, they mean work for yourself and working on yourself, which is a good thing, but it also means it's not like a chill read on the couch to end the day. It's, you know, take notes and you have to work for it. And I want to do that, I want to finish that, and so far this book has been really good and helpful in a way that I think subconsciously I did implement some of the things he said in this book into my daily life, but not enough to change significantly. So this will be postponed, but I will finish it this year, hopefully. Well, we see at the end of the year if I did. Wish me luck. Then I have a book called We Were Liars. I basically only started it because I found it on the Kindle app, that it was free, and I've heard people talk about it. I really didn't get that far to kind of know what the actual plot of the book is. But yeah, I don't really know if I want to finish it at some point. It didn't really hook me that much, to be honest. I think at a point where I don't have anything on my Kindle and I'm somewhere, I will just keep reading that, but I don't know, not right now. But if you read it and you loved it, maybe write in the comments if I should keep reading it. Maybe I'll get some new motivation. Oh geez, I almost forgot about it. We have Throttled by Lauren Asher, which is a Formula One romance book. I think I've talked about it in a different video, and it's basically not my cup of tea. Let's say that. I don't usually read a romance book, just romance. I usually love romance in fantasy or in other stories, but with a focus on the romance, for me, sometimes it feels a bit ridiculous. I don't know why. And I think this one as well, it's supposed to be this, the sister of a Formula One driver that, has the hots for his rival driver from the same team. And I tried actually a couple of days ago to keep reading it, but I'm just not interested. I'm really not. So I will DNF this. I will give this away to someone who might like it. And yeah, goodbye. Then we have Macbeth by Shakespeare. This is my fourth or fifth Shakespeare play. I think it's not my favorite Shakespeare play so far. I love Julius Caesar so much. I loved Romeo and Juliet, obviously. I liked The Tempest, I would say, but it didn't really, hook me in a way that was like, okay, I have to finish it in the next 10 minutes. But it was definitely good. I think the characters were very well painted. I love the conflict, between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth and their kind of character arcs. And yeah, I don't have much left of it, and I will also finish it, I think, in the next week, I would say. Oh, I forgot about this. I also talked about this in a different video. It's Imagine Me by something Malfi. I still don't know how to pronounce her name actually, but yeah, this is the last book, and I'm 136 pages in, and I'm so bored by this. It just escalated so much that I don't know if I'm going to finish it soon. I want to. It's like the last book in a series, and it's so unsatisfying to not have finished it. So I will, but at a time where I feel motivation for it. You know what I mean? So I think definitely this year, but not in the next month. Definitely not. I'll finish it, okay? I only have like 300 left, which is a lot actually when I think about it, to give me more of this book. But I will finish it. I will, okay? Jesus. A Little Life. Yes, this is also collecting dust. I started it and I tapped it, but I think I lost my bookmark because I have no idea on which page I am. Oh no, I think here I dog-eared it. I am on page 70, and that felt like a lot of pages to me. It was good. It was definitely good. We are still in the era of establishing the characters, and we don't have that much action going on. It's pretty character driven at this point, not very plot driven, which sometimes, bores me a bit, and it feels easier to me to put the book away. Whereas when it's very plot driven, usually it keeps me at it. But also I have respect for this book. I feel intimidated by it. I don't know, I don't think I am as well right now to read this kind of literature that probably will shatter me and shatter me. I think you have to know that this book will scar you in some way. I've heard about it and lots of people talk about it, and right now I don't feel as keen on having that happen to me. Yeah, right now I'm very much for light, short, enjoyable reads, and not stuff that will destroy me. So I will read it. Sometimes I'm really in the mood to have that happen to me, but right now not so much. I think fall, winter, I think that's the time to have my heart broken. So I will save it for these seasons. Oh, Secret Histories, also collecting dust, and it actually looks disgusting. We have a random tab on it. I am on page 290, which is not even the beginning of the chapter, so I basically stopped reading in the middle of it. Fantastic book. Fantastic, very, very good, but very slow as well. And I want to keep reading it very soon. I think my mistake was reading If We Were Villains and then immediately after reading Secret History, which are always regarded as those similar books. So basically, in every Dark Academia Instagram post, you see If We Were Villains, A Secret History, and some others that change. But those are the two that are always there. But If We Were Villains is super fast paced, in my opinion, and it's plot driven and it gets you through it and you stay hooked all the time. And The Secret History is much slower, even though it has the same vibe. It has much more descriptions and pages and pages, so it's much slower, but it was so good until I stopped. And I don't know, sometimes it's just too slow for me, but yeah, I really want to keep reading it this year, hopefully. I think also it is a good book for fall, and I think that's the book that season. Oh, and then on my list I found A Court of Wings and Ruin. I think that's the title. I have no idea. I think apart from A Court of Thorns and Roses, because it's called the Deathnote Series, that's the only book I definitely know that's the first. But after that, it's just random words in the structure of a sentence. A Court of Windows and Birds. Could be a book, I have no idea, but I think it's the second to last or the last book. I don't know. I listened to those books as audiobooks, so I didn't read them physically. So at first I was really hooked, but at some point it just got more complex, and I was reading it, listening to it on the train or on the bus, and someone interrupted me, so I didn't listen for a couple of minutes and I didn't go back, so I kind of missed a lot of plot points. And at some point I was so confused listening to that book, because sometimes I also didn't listen to it for like a couple of weeks, and then I forgot things or didn't even listen to them in the first place. And yeah, I have no idea what was going on, and I think I have that in my Audible library the last 2 years, I don't know, but I think I will reread the whole series as physical books because I have them all on my shelf. I don't know what's going on anymore. I think I remember the first and the second book, but after that I have no fucking clue. So yeah, it's a DNF for now, but a reread for later, I would think. And the last book, so the oldest book in my currently reading list, is Beyond Order by Jordan Peterson. So the first one was called 12 Rules for Life, and this is Beyond Order 12 More Rules for Life, I think. I loved 12 Rules for Life. I think I've read it twice actually, dog-eared like every other page. And this one as well, I think you can see by the dog ears how far I got. But then again, the same with Atomic Habits. At some point, I'm just not in the mood for work reading. For the people who don't know about Jordan Peterson or his books, 12 rules for your life to follow, to, live. And I think every one of the first 12 was pretty applicable to my life, and it felt relatable. And even the one about parenting was super interesting and helpful to me. But I think what put me off this book was that the rules were not as relatable anymore. For example, the first rule is do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievement. Like, this headline just doesn't catch me. And I think in the first book, all the rules were like, oh yeah, that's totally common sense, but tell me more about it. But I definitely want to finish it because there are a couple of rules that I didn't read yet. Those are super interesting and the headlines really speak to me. So for example, work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens. This is kind of, what I'm trying to do with YouTube. And do not allow yourself to become resentful, deceitful, or arrogant. Or rule number 9, if old memories still upset you, write them down carefully and completely. So there's a couple of interesting rules left, and yeah, I will definitely finish it. I don't know, this year, I hope so. I think we'll just see by December. Yeah. So these were all the 15 books. I don't know, I didn't count. But yeah, these are all the books I'm currently reading, and I think I will get back to you when I've finished a couple of those. And yeah, hopefully I will finish some of them in the next week. Until then. Welcome back. Roughly 1 week later, I finished, I think, 4, which were the ones I actually wanted to finish, so that's completely fine. Starting off with the Deathnote series. So there were 5 books left. So 8 through 12. So I finished the series, and I've also finished the anime. And I don't know, I think everything I said in the beginning of the video about how I felt about it is still true. Well, what happened in volume 6 just changed everything so much, and new characters got introduced that I didn't really resonate with or liked or rooted for at all. So in the end, it was kind of no character left that I actually liked and wanted to win in this scenario. Well, maybe a few side characters, but I think for me the appeal of the manga series kind of stopped in that volume. But I finished it, it was good, it was not fantastic. I think I would have rated Deathnote way higher if these volumes didn't exist, or if the ending was kind of different. But I think volume 1 to 7, and the same for the anime actually, up until that point, it was perfect. It was literally a 5-star anime and manga, I would say, but I downgraded it to, I don't know, I think 4 stars maybe, because obviously the first half was so good, but after that it kind of, you know, left me hanging a bit. So yeah, it's still a very good series to read, and there are other people out there who don't hate that part so much like I do. So people are like, oh, it's just as good or even better after that, but for me it was just not the same anymore. At this point it feels kind of weird of not telling you, not giving the spoiler what it is, but you just have to read it for yourself, because even if you stop at 7, I would say it was still a pretty good manga to read, but after that it's still good. It's just not the same anymore. I think the stakes were so high. I think it was with Game of Thrones. Like the first seasons up until like 7 and 8 were so incredibly good that that letdown in season 8, what frustrated so many people, makes it even worse for them. Even though, I mean, it was a good season 8, but not great and much worse than the others. So I think that is how I feel about Deathnote. Then I finished 1984, and as I anticipated, it was a blast. The ending was so good. I loved it so much. I think it's everything you want it to be. You know what I mean? It doesn't let you down. It doesn't become something you thought it wouldn't. It's exactly what you sign up for, and you get that. And I think that's a pretty good book, in my opinion. And so everyone who is interested in like dystopian classic literature should definitely start with 1984. I think I loved Brave New World, but I think 1984 is a bit more on point. And I haven't read Fahrenheit 451, I think it's called. I haven't read that yet, so I don't know. But yeah, 1984, I think I would recommend it to literally anyone. That is, you know, high praise for a book, I would say. Then I finished Now Go on Grief and Studio Ghibli, and this was fine, I would say. I think at first it was more interesting, but it got a bit repetitive over the book, even though it's not a lot of pages. I think it's like 80 pages, but still it got repetitive, and that is kind of what annoys me. If you do a very short book, like make it precise and make it on point, and you know, don't repeat the same stuff all over again. I think it's not as, you know, bad as I'm saying right now. But yeah, I didn't have so many takeaways from this book. It was just an interesting read of, you know, talking about the different projects with Studio Ghibli and having, you know, little bits of it analyzed in this book. And it's not like I view Studio Ghibli movies differently than I did before. I think it's pretty obvious that Studio Ghibli movies are often about death and suffering and loss and growing up and stuff like that. And this kind of just discusses that more. But I think it's definitely a good read. I will get more of these editions on different topics. I think it's also a lot to do with the author. I mean, every topic is by a different author, so you might enjoy other books from the same series more than others, obviously regarding the author or the topic it's about. But it has some very interesting topics and titles that I would probably get, because it's such a, you know, quick and easy read. Then I finished Macbeth by Shakespeare. This was good. It was not my favorite Shakespeare play at all, even though I haven't read as many, but there's some that I liked much better. But you know, it had some good quotes. It has a lot of references, like, or quotes that get referenced a lot in other media, and I've highlighted those. For example, double, double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Does that sound familiar, Miss J.K. Rowling? Oh, we have the quote tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, which, you know, the book came out a couple of years ago, which is named after this quote. Or and all our yesterdays have lighted fools. There's a ballet that is called All Our Yesterdays, that by Neumeier in Germany, Hamburg, where I live. And yeah, there was just some other quotes. Reading Shakespeare is so fun because in every play you see stuff that gets referenced 400 years later, and I think that's just for me at least, it's very fun. And there's this one very funny quote I love so much, and the murderer says to someone, "What, you egg?" Stabs him. This is so funny to me. Like, Shakespeare is so surprisingly funny at sometimes that it really throws you off guard, because why would Macbeth be funny? It's a tragedy, you know? There's political schemes and murders and stuff happening, and then, you know, you have those moments and you're really laughing out loud. And I don't know, it blesses my soul. I like that about Shakespeare, that he brings the humor in those tragedies. And even the fact that humor from 400 years ago is still funny to me is also pretty incredible, isn't it? I don't know. Yeah, I've been really enjoying Shakespeare, and in my TBR in June, some Shakespeare's on that list. I have a video on it, you can check it out. But yeah, Macbeth. Yeah, that was actually it. Like, the other books are just not the vibe right now. I'm sorry, but some of them I've already talked about, LDNF. Some of them I'll just keep on the list as a reminder that I have something lying around until the next time I'm, you know, in the mood to pick something up, and I don't know what. So yeah, let's see if I have finished those books in my lifetime, hopefully at some point. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.